Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. Quick warning before we begin, in the first post there is a lot of mention of abuse and mentions of self-harm. So if those are topics that make you feel uncomfortable, you might want to skip the story. And also a quick bit of information, both stories today have updates. Now let's get started. This post is from the subreddit Pro Revenge and it's by user Cynical Altruist. Want to F with your child's life? You picked the wrong child. About 3 years ago, I was in a multi-school academic support network, which had a summer camp. At this camp, I met Kristen. She was a closeted lesbian and was very scared of us telling her parents due to their extreme political and narcissistic views. I had dealt with this situation a few times, but not on this extreme of a level. Her parents were so far off the end of the scale, I dared not to say anything about politics or religion for fear of starting an inquisition. These people made Westboro look moderate. To give an example, they had complete control over her phone, emails, mail, and pretty much every other route of communication. So when they decided one of her friends was too Jewish, his last name sounded Jewish to them, they deleted him from her life. They called the program and rearranged her schedule so she would never see him. Later, we found out they filed false anonymous complaints against him so he wouldn't be invited back. Overnight, they removed him from her life. And this was not the last kid they did this with. Kristen was terrified of her parents, but they owned her. There was no way to escape short of suddenly becoming an adult. I was seriously worried about her, to the point I bought her an emergency-only prepaid phone, which I told her to hide. This was unequivocally the best decision I've ever made. Fast forward to January. Kristen is struggling with the stress of everything and says something innocuous in group chat along the lines of, "Good thing I don't have to worry about boys." Then we suddenly stopped getting responses from her. Her cell phone goes offline. The house phone kicks all of our numbers, but not payphones or other lines. The parents pick up, but say that there's no one with that name at their address, then hang up. Her classmate says she didn't show up for a class that day. Alarm bells are going off for everyone, and then I get a call from Kristen. "Please come pick me up, I was kicked out, it's cold." I'm the closest and I had a car, and I was driving in blowing heavy snow in far below freezing weather. I won't say that rage and panic fueled me, but I will say it got me there in one piece. I have never ever driven a car as recklessly, as hard, or as fast as I did that day. When I got there, she was huddled under a tarp, barefoot, in pajamas at the foot of their house's stairs. The parents saw my car and rushed out to scream at me for taking their child from the path of God and corrupting her with devil-worshipping ideas or some crap like that. I told them that if she listened to me, it was the first time she had ever done that. And then the critical sentence, direct quote for once. "She's not our child anymore. You godless heathen ruined her mind." And then, "She's no daughter of ours." Now, I'm going to pause this for a moment to preface everything that happens from this point on. This is not a pro-atheist or anti-Christian post. These whack jobs are the furthest things from humans I've ever seen. Do not use them as a generalization for religious group or a bandwagon to sell your ideals. I'm not dealing with that crap here. So, Kristen, freezing and scared, hides in my car. The parents start to get aggressive and hostile towards me, so I make two things very clear to them. One, I am recording everything they say. I have a camera on my car and my phone, and I have a police officer waiting for me at the foot of the driveway. I called the cops before I arrived due to not feeling safe. And two, I am leaving and never coming back, as per their request. Kristen will be coming with me since she is not their daughter, per their screaming rant. They start arguing with, aka screaming over, me about how she can be cured by methods that range from dubious to straight up illegal. By this point, I'm done. I get back in my car while they're screaming at me and head back down the driveway. The cop and I have a short chat and he recommends we be brought to the police station as soon as possible to prevent the parents from saying I kidnapped her. After a 6-hour ER visit for her hypothermia and minor frostbite, escorted by police, we arrive. All of my video and audio recordings are entered into official records, and the officer's dashcam footage and Kristen's ER report are filed away. I didn't know it at the time, but all of that would prove to be essential in court later. I signed her into a hotel in my town and lawyered up. The lawyer I know specifically deals with cases like hers for free. He is very, very good at it. There was a lot of legalese, a long process, and a lot of angry exchanges that I really didn't understand or participate in, but 2 years later, she was emancipated. I got to be a witness, and the recording and the ER report cinched the case, proving neglect. The parents didn't even try to argue against it, instead using some weird religious law argument. Kristen's older half-brother learned what was happening during the first year and supported her financially while she was in school. He hated the parents far more than either of us did. Kristen feared them more, and I was just disgusted by them. It wasn't much of a fight. The parents represented themselves and tried to drop the case on religious grounds, which isn't a thing. After this, the revenge started, and Kristen did not hold back. During proceedings, it was discovered that the parents had been using their children's social security cards for loans, credits, bank accounts, and other sketchy stuff. They were already going to jail for that, but Kristen took it to the next level. Now, these were all the things Kristen told me after the fact. I wasn't involved in this part, and I didn't write down all the details that well, but the following is approximately what happened from what I have been told or remember. So, warning, fuzzy details. One of the things that had been purchased in her name was the father's truck. Kristen reported it as missing since she was technically the owner of the truck. They pulled the father over and confiscated the truck as stolen because his name was not on the title. The wife's was. When he tried to prove it was his by filling out the bill of sale on the back, he found that the title for the vehicle had been invalidated when Kristen had ordered a new one and donated the vehicle to the fire department for Jaws of Life training that same day. The mother's credit cards were the same, but Kristen just cancelled all of them and declared ID theft. This froze some of the mother's bank accounts, which were under Kristen's social security number. The family was already in chaos, but Kristen cranked it up to 11. Due to the social security number, Kristen was listed as the main contract for the family's cell phone and internet plans. She cancelled both. She killed the email accounts in her name that she could access and rerouted her mail to her new P.O. box, where she may have accidentally forgotten to say they should only reroute her mail. She also called in repossessions on everything that had been bought with her social security number on credit. The loans included renovations on the home, so the parents were forced to sell. By the time Kristen was done, the parents were happy to go to jail for fraud, identity theft, and their other numerous crimes rather than live on the street. All I do know is that they became social pariahs in town before that. Stores banned them from their increasingly violent attempts at converting people. People they knew for years turned on them. The father was fired for failing a performance review, and the mother lost her job selling stuff due to her increased radicalization. In the end, Kristen's siblings went to live with her half-brother since he was the closest living relative. The parents lost all rights to visitation as the state nullified their parental rights and gave guardianship to the half-brother, mostly due to their criminal charges. But the real revenge might just be that as the sentencing was carried out, Kristen flipped the parents off in front of the judge, and the judge just laughed at the parents' attempts to claim it was hate speech. OP's edit. So this blew up. Kristen read this and cried. These walking sewage monsters caused her so much pain for so long, it was hard for her to talk about it with anyone, even me. She saw a bunch of people calling her a badass in the comments and broke down in tears. I never expected a Reddit post would be how we finally got her the support she needs. I didn't know this, but Kristen never got psych help after all of that. She was too busy with school, her job, the multiple lawsuits, and legal proceedings, the unraveling mess of what happened with her credit, and dealing with her younger siblings. She blames herself for all of it. She thought that if she was normal, none of this would have happened. We all know that's BS, but she was close to ending her life at a few points. So now she's in a crisis session at home, and she's talking about it for the first time in years. To address some common questions. Yeah, we effed up with the truck. I didn't make the final call, but I definitely said something about destroying it. This was before the scope of the ID theft was revealed to us, so Kristen and I thought it would be funny. It stopped being funny once we realized how deep in the crap she was. Her credit score is lower than some people's IQs, although maybe not her parents'. She's been denied loans and vehicles, even junkers, because of that. The lawyer said it will probably take years to wipe the remains off her credit reports due to the sheer amount of credit changes. The lawyer works for free since minors can't hire lawyers. He is paid by a non-for-profit that helps people escape situations like Kristen's. They are amazing. Kristen is okay. Not good or bad, just okay. The crisis session is still happening, but I heard from Kristen's girlfriend that she's talking about it and reading the comments. Kristen's lawyer has asked me to stop answering certain questions because there are still active suits that need to be finalized. Her half-brother has asked me to take him out since he didn't contribute that much. As if. Bullcrap, you did nothing, dude. You bankrolled everything. None of this would have happened without you. You are the reason we are here now. You are more of a hero than I am. You are what I aspire to be. Aw man, I've got conflicting feelings with this post. For one, I am really sorry that Kristen had to go through all of that. Suffice to say that those people weren't parents, they were just horrible people. The way they treated her and kicking her out in the cold for being who she is, that's just disgusting. And I absolutely agree with OP that this shouldn't be used as pointing fingers to everybody who's religious and say that they're all horrible. No. These parents weren't like that. These people were zealots. And we don't just see them in religion, we see them in politics as well. You know, the type that thinks that if you don't think like me, then you must be evil and must be destroyed. And on the other hand, I really loved how she got revenge on them. It was fantastic just reading about how she canceled their whole life. It was awesome. Now, like I said in the beginning, this story has an update, so how about we move on with that to see what else happened, but before that, remember, here's a playlist, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Now let's move on to the update. Thank you all for your epic words of encouragement and support. Kristen has been feeling like this was all her fault, including, and I didn't know this at the time, 3 separate lawsuits to grant custody of all 3 siblings, Kristen and the younger 2, to the older half-brother. Apparently, the courtroom was as toxic as you can imagine, so Kristen was near life-ending because of the stress of not only being forced to tear her family apart, sorting out the disastrous financial situation they left her in, and continuing with school, since it was a legal requirement for her to live with her half-brother. I didn't know this, but she had a plan and a letter all prepared. Neither of us was expecting the massive amount of moral support that came in. You guys were the push she needed to speak up about it. You guys got her to talk to her half-brother and lawyer. I love these guys even more now. And they immediately brought her into crisis counseling, and she is doing so much better now. There were some other questions I also want to address from the other post. GoFundMe. After a lot of consideration, they decided against it, due to the active cases of the younger siblings who are still minors. Any information they give out about names, dates, or even locations can be used to track them down, and Kristen would very much like her privacy. She has pretty much figured out the money thing by now, and her half-brother and I can supply her in any emergencies. The parents: endangering the welfare of a child, resisting arrest, insurance fraud, destruction of private property, destruction of public property, vandalism, and a whole ton of others I'm forgetting or getting wrong, but you get the idea. What happened after they were charged was that they went around street preaching trying to gain support. In the end, they spray-painted slogans on people's houses, some statues, and a few vehicles. They then tried to claim vehicle insurance on their destroyed truck and ran from police when they were served warrants for the other 2 children. They apparently also verbally abused and threatened Kristen with holy wrath or something like that in the courtroom in front of the judge. In short, Kristen's lawyer expects them to be spending a minimum of 10 years in jail. Technically, the charges from the identity theft they performed on their children haven't been tallied up, but apparently that's a different court system. I think that's a federal crime because of IRS and taxes. I could be wrong, I'm not the lawyer. Kristen's support network. I didn't know this at the time, but a whole whack ton of local businesses and residents pitched in stuff to help Kristen get by on her own. One of the car dealerships even gave her a car, despite the fact that it failed a safety inspection with something like a 4 out of 100. I doubt it was that severe, but the point was it was a junker some of the good old boys from town fixed up for her. The non-for-profit that Kristen deals with also got a lot of donations. Somehow a bunch of you found it, so serious kudos for that. They reported on their awful website that they're expected to be hiring another lawyer to help with more cases. It makes me happy that Reddit made this possible, but saddens me that it's necessary. What's next? As far as I know, Kristen's finances, credit history, school life, job, and relationship status have all pretty much stabilized. Next year, she hopes, she'll be starting college or trade school. Thank you all. Seriously though, Kristen might not be here right now without you all, so thank you so much. Alright, 10 years at a minimum because the other charges haven't been tallied up. Hopefully it'll be a lot longer than that because they don't deserve any less. So all that is left to say is thank you OP so much for sharing, and hopefully Kristen and all her siblings are doing great right now. Take care. And now let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit True Off My Chest and it's by user Deleted. I fell in love with my neighbor and just babysat his kids. Now I'm questioning my feelings. Okay, so first of all, I'm new to Reddit, so sorry if there are any mistakes or something. I obviously can't talk about this with any of my friends or my mom. But then I saw a Reddit post on TikTok and I thought this would be a good place to talk about this. I'm also gonna post this in a couple of different places based on what came up when I googled best Reddits to post on for advice. So also sorry if this shows up multiple times. Finally, I know you're all going to judge me, but at least try to understand my side. Thanks. So, I'm a 34-year-old woman and 7 months ago I had a messy breakup with my long-term boyfriend. So I moved in with my best friend and her husband in a house we are all renting together. It was then that I met my neighbor, who I will call Kunal. He helped us move our stuff into the house and I was instantly smitten. We live in the suburbs of a major city, so we both ended up taking the train to work at the same time each day. I knew Kunal had a wife and kids very early on. He talked about them often and had pictures of them on his lock screen, social media, etc. However, initially, it started out as a very innocent, silly crush. He is handsome and funny and sweet. The first time we rode the train, he asked me about my job and seemed genuinely interested in what I was saying, which is something my ex never did, and it's something we fought over a lot. He is always doing things for his kids, like bringing home treats and stuff for them and staying on the phone with his older daughter the entire ride to work because she needed a pep talk before a school presentation. It was just so easy to imagine how lovely and attentive Kunal would be with me because he is like that with everyone else. He has never said or done anything to imply that he has feelings for me yet, but we are genuinely friends by now because we talk on the train, which is about a 20-minute ride almost every weekday. I have never had trouble getting the attention of man, and with this basis we have already, I know that we could easily become something more. I also learned shortly after I developed feelings for him that his wife is someone I went to school with, and I was surprised because they are polar opposites. He is funny, she is dry. He is exciting, she is cautious. He is a little dumb, and she is very smart intellectually. Looks-wise, this feels mean, but yikes. I just don't think that their personalities fit very well together at all, and I can easily see Kunal getting stuck in a relationship because he's just so nice. The issue is that yesterday evening, Kunal knocked on my door and asked if I could watch his kids for a bit. This was of course no trouble, and I said yes right away. He told me that his wife had gotten into a car accident while on a business trip, and because she is pregnant, he was super worried and had booked the next flight out to go see her. They don't have any family in the state currently, so he asked me to keep an eye on them for a few hours while a family friend drove over several hours to watch them at night. Now is where the issue comes in. These kids were an absolute nightmare. There were 3 girls, and the oldest was your typical bratty preteen times 1,000. She was rude and didn't respect my authority at all, arguing with me about everything from dinner to who had to clean up to what movies she was allowed to watch. I even heard her call me a bitch under her breath a couple of times. The middle was rowdy and constantly wanted to play loud, messy games even when I told her no. The youngest was mostly sweet and quiet on her own, but she joined in with whatever drama the middle wanted to create. It culminated in me agreeing to play hide and seek with the younger 2 and ending up getting locked out of the house. When I went back and tried to convince the oldest to let me in through the back screen door, she pretended she couldn't hear me and put her headphones in. Thankfully, the family friend arrived a few minutes later and let me in, and then I went home. This makes me sad because before now, I would often dream about being a stepmom to Kunal's kids one day because of how highly he would talk about them. Now, I want nothing to do with them, but at the same time, this is further proof that Kunal and his wife are not happy because children from happy homes do not behave like this. I just want to have a relationship with Kunal, but I do not know if it is possible because his kids and I would not get along. And this is even before a potential divorce where their mother could easily get them to hate me. I really love Kunal and I know that we could have a beautiful relationship if I pursued this, but this has really shaken me. I just wish I had someone to talk to about this, but everyone in my life would judge me. Well, OP, I kinda see why everybody would judge you because this sounds unhinged. I don't know if your ex-boyfriend did a number on you or he just ran for the hills because you're nuts. But you need help. I mean, you sound like you're a tenured professor at Nice Girl College. Also, OP, it must be some indicator that the slime bucket that is the adultery subreddit deleted your post. And the one comment you got there was somebody saying that you're a terrible person. OP, you certainly need help. Please leave Kunal and his family alone. Anyways, I'm gonna skip the comments and any of OP's replies because it would be absolutely redundant. There is no additional context we need here. So now let's move on with the update, which is a screenshot of a WhatsApp conversation between Kunal and OP, and I think you guys are really gonna like it. My wife and the baby are okay. Thank you for watching the girls. Of course, anytime, smiley face. Let me know if there's anything else I can do. Thumbs up. Reddit post. Is this you? Because if it is, we need to talk. I promise you that I have absolutely no interest in leaving my family for you. I'm sorry if I ever gave you the wrong idea, but I don't see you as anything more than a neighbor. I don't think we should be friends anymore. Wait, can I call you? And hopefully Kunal blocked her after that. And apart from that, I don't think there's anything left to say. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.